What's going on YouTube? It's Biggs again. I'm here today with a One Piece trading card game video. Today we're going to take a different route. It's been a while since I've uploaded a video. I just finished school. Well, school for the summer. But we're going to be talking about set 5 because, as you guys know, I can never wait. I love diving into the next meta, mixing it up, talking about different deck ideas, etc. Here we have the Sabo leader, Akainu, and Enel. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. I think Sabo's really interesting card design, being able to protect your units by reducing their power. Very interesting. They don't get KO'd. It would be if they were to be KO'd, instead give them -1. So you're able to maybe possibly affect your own strategy if like you have any useful on KO effects. But for the most part, really strong. In conjunction with the new Sabo that we're going to talk about and the old Sabo, like it just gives your board a lot of lasting power and makes it a lot harder to be interacted with outside of like any blue decks that are bottoming or bouncing. Sakazuki, I really like this. I like that we have a blue-black leader that isn't Rebecca. His ability to basically loot for magic and just draw one or discard one, draw one is pretty good. Being able to dump any clunky black cards that have no counter value and draw one, as well as a little mini cost effect for free. There's no Don investment required to just attack and then give something -1, making all your other removal effects, whether they be bounce, etc., a lot more useful. Enel, he's a very interesting leader. If he gets more support, I can definitely see him being up there with Katakuri. Because his ability is, when you're at 0, you can add the top card of your deck to your life and discard a card. The caveat is that he is at 4 life. So he technically will always be a 5 life leader when you think about it. But this is a repeatable effect. It's not a once per game type of thing. So you can continuously survive at the end game. Possibly. The problem is you do lose access to things like Tenmom and just being oh my god, Charlotte Pirate. So that does affect your deck overall. But again, if we get enough support out of the Sky Island stuff, it could be very good. Probably the best leader out of the group is definitely Bello Betty. This ability is broken. Give up to 3 of your Revolutionary Army or Trigger type characters plus 3k, and all you have to do is discard a Revolutionary Army card. This is nuts. People thought Moby Dick was a broken card, and it is, because it essentially let you cheat 2 Don per character and your leader. This is letting you cheat 9 Don. Granted, it's limited to 3 characters, but I mean, that's still a lot of juice, boys. 3k for 1 card across 3 bodies. I'm sorry, not even across 3 bodies, per body. So this is a really busted effect. You're in red, which is still the best color. Yellow gives you a lot of free units, just being able to take hits off life and summon characters. So this is really, really powerful. So look out for Bello Betty. Zoro might be power crept. New purple Luffy leader. I actually like this one a lot. Just because it lets you circumvent purple's lack of draw power. And then you can do is take the top card from your life to your hand and add a Don if your field is 0 or 3. So once you hit 3 Don, you can start ramping, and then once you hit 0 Don with a card we'll talk about in a second, you're able to ramp yourself without having to worry about it and draw a card technically. So I really do like this. Being that you're taking a life isn't necessarily a detriment, as we've seen in Whitebeard. Sometimes that extra draw power is all you need. And again, just ramping that Don so that you can start cheating things into play earlier is really powerful. There's a promo, just a body. Is this a promo? Yeah, it is. If your board has 10 Don, he can't be killed. I'm not going to play this card. Some alternate arts. Starter deck cards. If you guys want me to talk about these, I'm waiting until we get an update on the sim to start showing off the ST leaders, but they're no secret, they're really powerful. But we'll talk about that when the time comes. for now, we're just going to focus on set 5 stuff. Pika is one of the best green cards I've seen in a while. End of turn, you can rest one, set him as active, which is really nice because he's on cost stats. So like 4 for 6k is what you would be paying for like the most optimal body. And on top of that, if he would be KO'd, you can rest a 3 cost or less character, not named Pika. I think it's 3 cost or more. I think this is a mistranslation. And you can not activate, but you can protect him from being KO'd. So this is really powerful at 6k power. This guy, meh, he's kind of ass in my opinion. If you have 2 or more rested characters, you can set one of your 1 cost characters as active. It's because he's in conjunction in the anime and the manga. Obviously, he has synergy with Baby 5. They're always together. But as a card in general, he's not going to be useful, but Baby 5 for sure is. She is the Bonnie effect for your Don Quixote pirates. So this is going to finally be able to push in conjunction with Pika. I think the archetype into contention as opposed to just playing film package for Film Dofi, or sorry, that's what he is right now, Film Dofi, but for green purple Dofi. So I think this with a couple other cards is going to be huge. And then you also have a secondary option. Instead of playing green purple Dofi, you can also play Rosinante. I love this card. I think this was a really cool ability. It sounds very like unassuming, but blocker on your leader is huge. Being able to protect your board, draw a life if you need to by not protecting yourself and just activating block, because it's not like your leader dies right after combat. You'll just take the life. So that's huge. And then he also gets to maintain his offensive presence, because if you have 6 cards or less, you can set him as active at the end of turn. So you can still attack with your leader, poke the board, and then set him back as active to block for your characters. So this is huge in my opinion. So I love this leader. I cannot wait to start playtesting with him, because again, he is one of my favorite characters from the show, along with Law. Bello Betty for your Revolutionary Army. So you can put this in Sabo or Bello Betty decks. So far, I haven't seen anything that I would want to splash into Zoro. So that is a plus. I don't want to see Zoro getting more 1-drop searchers to splash the new meta whatever deck it is, right? I hate that. I think it's stupid. It's why Vivi got her searcher limited to herself, basically, because she can minus her power to activate this effect. But before I get too angry about Zoro, I do like that it's not as splashable, because a lot of these cards aren't as splashable into Zoro. Like Koala only gets her effect if your leader's a Revolutionary Army. For the most part, though, she's always going to be a 2-hit counter. We get a new Ichiro Oda Luffy card. This will be exclusive to the set. I have no idea what the print run is going to be looking like. But love this. I always love the manga art. I think he does a really, really awesome job with those. Kuma might be like, if your deck is looking for those last couple playables for your Revolutionary Army card deck, being able to KO up to one of your opponent's characters with 2 care less is okay. But he gets a on trigger play this card effect, so it's okay. It's not the greatest card, but it's not terrible. You can at best probably hit like a blocker, or if you have some of your power minusing cards, you can combo that with this. This promo is actually really strong. I don't know how we're gonna get that in our English sets, but she's really good. You can place all your cards in your hand at the bottom of the deck and then draw that many cards. So it's a way to filter out if like your hand is kind of a dud, which does happen in purple. Like a lot of your top end stuff has no counter power. If you don't see any ramp, then it kind of just dies in your hand. But this helps you kind of get out of there. And at worst, use a 1k counter. So I can definitely see like 1 or 2, maybe all 4 copies. It depends. Unfortunately, though, she does not have Animal Kingdom, so she won't be able to be searched like if you're playing her in Blurple Kaido or something. But interesting card. One of the biggest implications of the set, in my opinion, is the new Gear 5 Luffy. If you haven't watched that episode, by the way, it was fucking awesome. Gear 5 Luffy does an effect that's pretty scary. Granted, the cost is huge, rightfully so, because taking an extra turn is dumb. which is what this does, is Don -10, destroy all your other characters. Well, not destroy them, but put them on the bottom of the deck, and then take an additional turn. He does have a ability where you can rest one Don and add one Don from your Don deck as active. So he'll help you recoup your resources after the fact. But this ability is pretty strong. Again, you have the purple Luffy who helps you ramp Don back. So there's options to circumvent this, but I still think this is just dumb in general. So you can attack with your board, do whatever you're going to do with them, and then take an additional turn with this guy. Again, as ramp gets better, which it has been, because right now purple is on the rise. It is on the pickup in a big way. It's been the weakest color for the longest time right now, and I'm in love with this effect. But definitely kind of scary. Definitely got to watch out for this. Because if you've played Magic at anytime you have a card that lets you take an extra turn, whether it's right away or some point in the future, it's an ability that is very frustrating to play against and really busted. Next, we have Law. I love this card. Again, I cannot wait to play Red Purple Law with all the new cards that come from set 5. When you're attacking, and your opponent has more Dawn than you, which they definitely should be in that version of Law. Look at the 5 cards of your deck, reveal a Heart Pirate and add it to your hand. So it's a searcher for free. It is not like Film Nami where you need to invest a Dawn. It's just every time they attack, and the only caveat is that your opponent has to have more Dawn, which they should. Unless you're in like a weird mirror match. But I love the Law, love the artwork, it looks sick. Cannot wait to try this out. This blue Kaido, I would have liked for him to be a little cheaper and maybe have less power or something, some trade-off. The fact that you have to tap out to do this effect kind of sucks. So if your opponent has 3 or less life, draw 4 cards. This is a perfect example, in my opinion, of a win more card. If you're already winning and you can afford to tap out and not worry about dying on the crackback to draw 4 cards, in my opinion, you're already winning the game. So this is kind of like a waste. It's not terrible, obviously. Draw 4 cards is huge. But the fact that you have to tap yourself out kind of sucks. So I'm not really sold on this card. It's cool though. I love the alternate art. I don't think it's on here yet, but the alternate art looks really sick. The regular art looks phenomenal. Uses Captain Kidd. This is a really powerful card. 5 cost 6k blocker with 1k counter stat, so that's really huge. So he'll never really be dead in hand. And 6k blockers are, as we already know, are pretty powerful. Once per turn, on your turn, whenever you activate a Dawn minus effect, you can add a Dawn from your Dawn deck as active. I don't know how this interacts with the 10 drop, whether minusing 10 with the 10 drop on play will let you proc this ability. So I'm not sure. Again, I'm not sure how that works. If you can do this beforehand, this is actually really huge. So you can +1 Dawn with your Kid as you're going down to 0, and you'll get it as active. So that's pretty huge. But again, we'll have to see how the ruling works because I don't know. Ivankov, really powerful effect, lets you flood the board really quickly, which will be huge for Bello Betty decks. Activate main on once per turn. If he has 7k or more, you can play another Revolutionary Army card from your hand with 5k or less besides himself. So again, a way to just flood board early and then start turning on that Bello Betty effect. Any extra copies you can always pitch to Bello Betty, so that's really powerful. This is a really powerful uncommon Doflamingo. 7 cost 8k power is really good stats, and then more of the Don Quixote stuff where their effects activate on your opponent's turn. Once per turn, rest 1 Don, and then rest one of your opponent's characters with 6k or less when they attack. So this is a very, very powerful way of like shutting down your opponent's attacks for their turn. So like you can let them attack with 1 character. It's also really awkward. So like generally you like to go up the ladder when you're attacking. So I'll attack with like my weaker guy first and then my stronger guy last. This kind of will force your opponent to not do that. They'll have to invest more Dawn on like their bigger guy or risk having it be tapped down. So this is really powerful. I like this effect. I'm loving that green is getting these when your opponent attacks stuff just as a way to answer aggressive decks that are always attacking you. I do think We might get to that point where it's a little too power crept and it's a little too good, but I'm still happy that these effects exist. Generic 2K counter for blue, specifically a blue navy. Unfortunately, Nami buddies, this does not work in your deck. You will draw 2 and then return 2 to the bottom of the deck, so you're not actually drawing cards. This is good for other decks, but not for Nami. Just because it's not letting you deck yourself out. You're still putting 2 cards on the bottom of the deck, so your deck is going 0, basically. But overall, I still like this effect. Again, in the blue-black decks that we are going to have access to, being able to bottom any duds in the hand, while still maintaining a 2K counter stat, so it's always relevant, is really powerful. Orobi, we have the Land of Wano Straw Hats in this set. If you have 8 or more done on your field, KO a character with 3 costs or less. Situational, and then being that you don't get cost minus effects in purple is just mediocre in my opinion. It's not terrible, but it's not great. I don't know if I would slot her into my deck. But a worthy consideration for sure. Cobra, you could trash the top card of your deck on play, and he's just a generic blocker. He's okay. Not really seeing where I would play this at all. Really, really sick artwork of him at the Reverie. But other than that, not too sure where I would play this. Toto is more Alabasta Kingdom stuff. I love that they're giving all these other archetypes different cards to play with. So this is really cool. If your leader has 0 power or less, draw 1 card. So again, this works with Vivi when you use her searcher. I forgot the name. But he gives Vivi minus 5k, and then he searches. This is a way for you to take advantage of that. I'm not sure if they have other ways to minus Vivi's power, but again, he's a generic 2k counter, but you can do a little combo of possibly drawing a card with that. Bellamy, it's just vanilla Sky Island Doggy. Blocker for Blue Navy, just generic 2 cost 2k blocker. Really sick promo for yellow, a little scary. KO up to one of your opponents cost 4 lower characters on trigger, otherwise he's a vanilla character at 5k. So really powerful effect. Is it worth, 1, diluting your deck with less Big Mom pirate stuff? I don't know, just to have a trigger that an ability that only activates on trigger. Still a very powerful effect, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, is it worth putting? I don't know. But the fact that you have access to it is something that your opponent's going to have to start thinking about every turn. Again, a promo though, so not sure how we're going to get it. Hopefully they make it easier. I hate when Bandai makes these promos really hard to get. Like any treasure cup type stuff, that's really annoying. Moving on, we have Beppo, another card I really want to try in my deck because it gives purple a way to minus power. So you can almost make a dedicated Heart Pirates, like I guess with Straw Hats on the side type of deck with the new red purple law. So I'm really excited to see this. And I like Beppo. I would love for them to give Beppo an alternate art. That's just me. I'm a Beppo fan. I love Kung Fu Panda. But or in this case, Polar Bear. But I love this ability. Again, it activates on attacking if you have less down on your field, which you most likely will, and then giving them minus 2k power to either trade board, turn on your leader effect. It's really, really, really good. So love this effect. In conjunction with things like the OPO1 Brook, you'll be able to control the board in so many different ways. So this is really powerful. Kotori, it activates effects with Hotori. So if you have Hotori, you can KO opponent's character with cost equal to their life. So this is a really interesting effect if you're trying to play like a starve out strategy, maybe not attacking their life right away. That way you can KO like 5s more efficiently. And then I believe Hotori lets you play Kotori. So there's those tandem effects. I like these abilities where you get those synergies, but is it worth diluting your deck to run like 4 of each? Don't know. Definitely can't wait to experiment. That's why I love doing these evaluations of sets, because it's always fun to theory craft. Viola, love the ability, and I'm really hoping the implication here is that we will be getting sideboards in the future of some sort or some way. because this effect really is only a tech against Rebecca when you look at it, because your opponent chooses 3 cards in their trash and returns it to the bottom of their deck. So if you don't know, Rebecca has a lot of effects where they turn on if you have X amount of cards in your trash, and this lets you kind of mess with her strategy. So I would like them to implement sideboards, because this is definitely not a main deck card. It's only a 2-cost 3k, 1k counter stat, and this ability. There's no other positives to running this into your deck. So I would love for them to give us sideboard options. That way they can actually open up that design space. I've said it before in one of my much older videos, but you can open up design space where not every card in every set has to be like power creep. This card does this, X, X, Y, and Z. This just opens up more card space, in my opinion. So like they'll have niche value, but it'll pay off because you can put this in a sideboard. And then real quick, in my opinion, I think this game should be pre-sideboard. I'm not sure what game does it. I think it's Flesh and Blood. You can pre-sideboard your deck. That way you don't have to play a scuffed matchup, or you can play like a tech for a certain matchup that maybe isn't bad necessarily, but like helps you get that extra edge. So I would love to see that come to our game at some point in the future. And this is a perfect example of like what I mean when I'm talking about design space. Moving on, we have Enel. Enel is no counter, 7-cost 7k rush. So yellow gets a no restrictions, just rush card. And he gets a little bit of protection in that he can't be removed from the field if you trash a card from your life. So this is really good. Really powerful effect. I hate the second part. I think it's stupid. However flavorful it is, because Luffy is his natural counter. But he cannot activate this effect if your opponent controls a Luffy, or if Luffy's on the field in general. So that sucks. I think that's ass, but it is what it is. Luffy is just gonna counter Enel for life. But this is a really good ability no matter what. 7-cost 7k, and then just a quick point. Remove from the field, it does include any bottom or bouncing effects, so he can completely negate those abilities. So really good, and good into Enel, as you do get that like second life almost when you're at 0, so trashing the life isn't as bad there. 7-cost 8k Borsellino, so we are getting the chair admirals. I love these artworks. I would love to see each one get one in this set or in a future set. On play, bounce a character to the bottom, 4 or less. Again, you have access to black now in Akainu. Akaino's ability lets you kind of like hit a higher costed cards down to this threshold. So really powerful effect in my opinion. I think he's really good. I cannot wait to see this played. 7-cost 8k is really good stats. Moving on, we have Rebecca. Blocker on play. So this is kind of like a resurrection effect. I do like this, especially since Black Rebecca is all about the mill. Return up to 1 black character other than herself with cost 3 or less, or 3 to 7, sorry, from your trash to your hand. So like if you mill a 7-cost Luffy, this is another way to get it back. And it gives you a little tempo play, as you can play 1 cost 3 or less black character from your hand to the field. So even though she's a 0, she's still a blocker, by the way. Even though she's 0, she'll let you play something else, like a Kyros, for example. That way you can maintain board. The new Sabo, KO up to 2 of your opponent's characters with a combined power 4k or less. This is really powerful in conjunction with any power minusing effects. I believe the Koala gives something minus 3k on play, the 2k counter one. Any other effects that you have access to, like Brook. There's Jinbei 2k counter from the ST10 set that also does minus 2. Bunch of different ways you can combo with this, so I really like this ability. And then being able to KO 2 characters is really big. And answering things like Zoro, or even opposing Bello Betty decks. So giving other decks ways to do that is really good. More promo. This one's Luffy. Has a counter stat, 7-cost 7k, and then he can bounce a 3-cost or less to hand. Meh, it's not terrible, but really sick art. Would love to see that. Would love to own one of these. Miko Robin. Not the greatest card. Love the art though. K up to 1 of your opponent's characters with 1k power or less. It's very situational in my opinion. Don't know where this is going to go. Again, if we get even more power minusing effects, in red in general and not restricted to Koala, this is a really powerful effect, but we'll see where that goes. Monet is blocker with a really good on block effect of resting a 4 cost or less. So again, just more ways to answer your opponent's aggression in green, and specifically the Don Quixote pirates. So really, really, really powerful. This is definitely the most anti-aggro I've seen green be in a while. So really, really cool if you like playing that control strategy. Vanilla 8 cost guy, nothing much to say there. If he was 6 cost, maybe, but for the 6 cost 8k body, but not going to play it myself. This is a really interesting tool for any version of the purple crocodiles that exist. On opponent's attack once per turn, you can don -1 and play one of your Baroque work type characters with 3 costs or less. So this is a way for you to like put your blockers into play. It won't be active when your opponent... Well, actually it will, right? It's attack first, and then I can declare a blocker. So you can actually put your blocker Miss All Sunday into play and have her block and then grab an event back. So really strong. The fact that it only costs 1 is huge too, so it's very low investment. And just having little cheap bodies on board is not bad at all. So this is a really strong effect. Onami, if you have 10 down on field, this character gains blocker. I think it's mediocre. Not going to play it in my purple decks. However, I do like the Choppermon. On play, if you have 8 or more down on field, set up to one of your purple characters with 6 power or less and has the Straw Hat type as active. Or less and has the Straw Hat type. So a really powerful effect. Purple getting access to a restand is really strong. And it's on play, not end of turn. So you can do like an attack and then double attack after. So this is really good in my opinion. And then the cost of only having to be 8 or more down is not that relevant as you're playing purple anyway, so you're ramping. So like this card. I'm going to go over this really quickly. St. Charlos, it's Celestial Dragons archetype stuff. Definitely not going to see myself playing this at all in any version of black, because he has to be the only character on the board, or other characters with Celestial Dragon can be the only characters on board. Otherwise, he'll give everything a -4 to their cost, which is powerful, but again, 0 cost, or 0 power rather, and I'm assuming all the Celestial Dragon type cards will have 0 power, so not worth slotting at all. Hotori, again, like I said before, combos with Kotori, so you can play Kotori from your hand when this comes into play, and then add up to one of your opponent's characters with 3 costs or less to the top or bottom of the owner's life. So really cheap way to answer like little shitters from like Zoro or even Bello Betty. So I like this ability again. If we get more of the Sky Island support, I can definitely see like playing these guys. Revolutionary Army General Headquarters. That is a mouthful. It's basically a look at top 3 if you trash a card and then pick one Revolutionary Army to add to your hand. So it's Impel Down for Revolutionary Army, so not bad and really cheap to activate. It's just trashing 1 card and then 1 to play the card. So better than like the Ace stage. I don't really like the Ace stage a lot. I know a lot of people try and play it, but I think it's mid. But I like that it exists here. The Birdcage. This is a scary card in my opinion. Cost 5 for the stage. If your leader is Don Quixote himself, unfortunately, I wish it was like Don Quixote Pirates. That way you could have played it in Rocinante's decks as well. But all characters with 5 costs or less will not become active. So this is locking down the board. But Don Quixote Pirate cards have a lot of ways to circumvent this by resting 1 down at the end of the turn to restand themselves. So you have ways to always maintain your board while your opponent like gets locked. And then obviously if this never went away, this would be stupid. But end of turn, if you have 10 or more Don, KO all rested characters with 5 costs or less, and then trash the stage. This is not a May ability, so thankfully. That way, so your opponent doesn't get their board locked down for the whole game. That'd be so cancer. But we do have this ability that nukes the board, quote unquote. I've seen some JP YouTubers trying to stuff this in things like Isho just to have like some ways to answer board a little. I'm not a fan. Granted, black does let you do minus effects, and it'll still be your turn, so any effects that give minus cost will still be active at the end of turn. It will stay until it passes to your opponent's turn, so you'll be able to maybe cheat KO things above 5. But again, it only procs at 10 Dawn, so I don't like having a card that does nothing until way later. And then tapping 5 to do nothing is bad. That's why I really like it more in the green-purple Dofi deck, possibly. Again, because it locks the board for a while. Moving on, let us begin with the World of Violence. A lot of people shat on this card. I don't think it's terrible. It's a removal effect that lets you replace the card, so you'll draw a card while being able to answer with the board. Again, it is a tempo effect. I know a lot of people don't understand the concepts of tempo. They would have liked for it to be bounced to the bottom of the deck. You guys are asking for broken shit. A card that replaces itself and would have bottomed something is dumb. That's too much goodness. This is just okay. I still think it's a worthy inclusion and maybe blue-purple Kaido, just because it's searchable and again replaces itself. And lastly, the trigger is really, really powerful in that if your leader is mixed colors, draw 2 cards. So that's never bad. It should never really be dead in my opinion. And if you're playing this in like a black-blue deck, this is still really good because you'll be able to bounce anything bigger and force your opponent to tap out to play it again. So again, if you guys think this is a bad card, I think you're not thinking about the big picture. You guys are spoiled because of Red Rock and 3000 Worlds. So this is still a decent card. I would have liked to like this card, but the fact that it's only top 3, again, the benefit of this card is it lets you get any Straw Hat, Kid Pirate, or Heart Pirate. So like if you're running the ST10 archetype with the new cards coming in set 5, it's really powerful. But again, at 3, it kind of sucks. I get it. They don't want to give you too much value, but meh. I'll probably still try out like a couple copies of it though. As we've seen, like searchers with searcher events are really powerful effects. The problem is none of your searchers can grab this card, which is another problem with the card. So I'm not sure how much I want to play this card. But it is very low cost investment, and then obviously the trigger activates the effect, so it's not terrible. Upper Yard is basically a searcher, but as a stage. As far as we know, no other yellow Sky Island cards interact with the Upper Yard stage yet. So as of right now, all it is a searcher. Hoping we see a little more. Otherwise, it's kind of just meh. Mary Joie, more of the Celestial Dragon stuff. It reduces your Celestial Dragons from 2 or more that you play from your hand is reduced by 1. Coincidentally, they mentioned 2, so you can't play a card for free. It's meh. Again, I'm not expecting the Celestial Dragons to be a real archetype. It's just more of like a jokey stuff that they added. Basil Hawkins, like this card, again, for Animal Kingdom Pirates specifically. If you have 3 cards or less in hand, draw a card, and then he gains 1000 power. So this is basically a 4-cost 6k body that blocks. The caveat is you do have to be low on hand, but I think that's okay. I don't think it's terrible. And then drawing a card when you're at low cards isn't bad either. So I can definitely see this being slotted into blue-purple Kaido very easily. Hacha is just fodder in my opinion. He is a 6-cost 7k that whenever he attacks, you can bounce a 3-cost or less with 1 Dawn. It's okay. It's not terrible. Lindbergh, really powerful for Revolutionary Army. When he attacks and he has 7k or more power, KO up to one of your opponents with 3k or less. This is Robin on steroids. Very easy to activate in Bello Betty. Any power minusing effects, which we see is kind of like the revolving theme for Revolutionary Army, is going to be really huge with this ability. So look out for this, as he is also a trigger where if you discard a card, you can play him, but your leader has to be multicolored to do this. So like, again, that he's not as splashable in other decks, and it's kind of restricted to this. So this is really powerful. A card I'm excited to see is Virgo for Isho specifically. Dawn 1 when attacking, KO arrested 3 costs or less. This is really powerful for Isho. Isho's static ability when he has a Dawn gives everything -1 cost. He can protect Virgo by restanding him at the end of turn. So he's kind of like a fair Robin for green. The problem is they has to be rested. So hoping we see a little more rest effects that aren't limited to like Don Quixote or something like that. X Drake, another triple tag. Marines, Drake Pirates, and Animal Kingdom on block. I'm sorry, he's a blocker, but with on play, look at the top 5 and then rearrange them. It's kind of a really high statted version of the 3-cost Dofi blocker we already have, but across 3 different archetypes is really interesting. I like this effect. Obviously, stacking your draw is never bad. Uso Hachi, 2K counter for Straw Hats. Don 1 on attack if you have 8 or more Don. Rest an opponent's character with 4 costs or less. So again, always going to be relevant as a 2K counter, but he's kind of in that like Robin stat line of just really good Don attachment and good ability. Resting a 4 cost or less is really powerful still. I would play 4 of Okiku if she had a relevant type still and had counter set. That's nuts. We just got these today. I'm excited about these. Ulti is a non-restricted effect. The caveat is that your leader has to be multicolored. That's fine. You can play this in blue-purple Croc, blue-purple Kaido, blue-green Rocinante. I love this effect. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck and add 1 to your hand. That's it. It is just replace a card, replace her from your hand, basically. So you get to play her and draw a card. Really sick. And then lastly, I'm super happy about this one, is Rob Lucci, CP0. So we're finally getting CP0. This is more support for your CP deck in general because they are not restricted to CP9. If you didn't know, it is just CP in general. So CP0, place 3 cards from your trash to the bottom of your deck in any order, and then KO up to one of your characters with a cost 2, and then again for a 1 cost or less. So obviously you're in black, so you have ways to cost minus cards. In Isho, you can blanket give minus cost to things. Like there's different ways to do this. Obviously, if you have Kuzan 4-drop, you're able to give something minus cost. But my favorite thing is that he's 4 for 6k, so that's on curve stats, and better target for like your air door and your Bluno. So you're able to actually play air door more consistently now. And then somebody's moving to Japan. Sorry guys, that was from my Discord server. But being able to be a better target for things like air door and Bluno, and then maintain the stat value that we want to see is just huge. Being able to answer more than 1 card on board, specifically any little cards, because black has always traditionally had a problem with Zoro because they're able to go so wide so quickly that it's your 1-for-1s look a lot worse. But this is the answer that we've been looking for. And lastly, it does not cost a card from your hand to do this. So just put 3 cards from your trash to activate this effect is really, really powerful. So love this effect. Excited to maybe try out Lucci again in set 5. I'm hoping they get a little more support. Maybe we'll get more CP0 cards. So looking out for that. That's it though. That is my thoughts on set 5. A lot of interesting implications. Maybe sideboard stuff in the future. Maybe we're all going to get time walked to hell by Gear 5 Luffy. Who knows? But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm off for an entire month, guys, so stay tuned. I'm going to be having content more regularly. Let me know what you guys want to see next. If you want me to cover these ST10 decks and deck ideas that we have, I have plenty, so just let me know. But that's it, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace.